The life you're building, the money you want to earn, the love you want to feel, the freedom that I know you're craving, all of it requires your ability to receive. Not just to visualize it or work hard for it, but to let it in when it actually shows up. If you can't receive it, you can't keep it. And that's not just incredibly frustrating, it's absolutely exhausting. I'm your host, Lauren, and together, let's explore what it really means to embrace authenticity in a world that often values conformity. If you've ever felt the pull to challenge the status quo or deepen your connection to self, you're in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of Not So Status Quo. Now, I am coming to you fresh of a few leisurely days in Byron Bay. It's one of our favorite little spots that we like to escape to when we need a really quick reset. We've got our go-to beaches, our go-to cafes, our go-to restaurants, and literally from the moment we arrive, I can feel my body exhale. It's just like one of those places for me. But this trip felt a little bit different. Not because of where we stayed or what we did, because we are creatures of habit, so those absolutely stayed the same, but because I barely contributed financially. And I'll be honest, that felt a little uncomfortable. But 12 months ago, it would have felt way more uncomfortable. I would have done everything I could to make sure things were split 50-50 because that was my pattern. But this time, I noticed something pretty different. I actually let myself receive this act of love and appreciation. I didn't immediately slip into guilt or trying to make up for it in some kind of way. And that's what made me realize how much I've actually changed. Because for so many of us, myself included, wanting isn't the problem. It's receiving that feels unsafe and really uncomfortable. Like, have I wanted to feel spoiled and cared for by my partner without prompting? Immediately, yes. Have I always energetically allowed that to be the case? Unfortunately, no. I've always had this insecurity about not paying my way or contributing at least equally, if not more. And I've seen a similar pattern in quite a few of my clients. You know, we talk a lot about wanting more money, more love, more peace, more freedom. But how often are we actually letting it in? Because wanting, that's the easy part. I can easily sit with my journal and script out my dream life. I can vividly visualize the income, the gorgeous friendships, the community, my inbox full of opportunities and all of the yeses in the world. But receiving wasn't easy. So how did I go from that to this place of feeling more comfortable with receiving? About 7 months ago, something happened that I took note of. I had this moment where one of my manifestations actually arrived in my reality. It was something I'd really worked for, something I'd become energetically available for, something I had consciously said yes to, but as it arrived, I felt this weird kind of wave of guilt, like I had to apologize for getting what I wanted, like maybe it was too much, or maybe I was too much for wanting it, like I'd somehow taken up more than my fair share. And that's when I had quite a big aha moment. The desire wasn't the problem, the receiving was. There's a whole gap between wanting and receiving, and most of us, especially women, get stuck in that gap. And oftentimes it's not because we're not doing the inner work or the self-development work, not because we don't want it enough, but because we've never really learned how to feel safe receiving and holding what we say we want. And why does learning to receive even matter in the first place? Well, simply because the life you're building, the money you want to earn, the love you want to feel, the freedom that I know you're craving, all of it requires your ability to receive. Not just to visualize it or work hard for it, but to let it in when it actually shows up. If you can't receive it, you can't keep it. And that's not just incredibly frustrating, it's absolutely exhausting. You end up chasing the same thing over and over, wondering why maybe it just never feels that fulfilling. Receiving isn't the final step of the process. It is the process. And fortunately and unfortunately, when your body, your identity, or your nervous system doesn't feel safe with the thing you're calling in, whether that is the money, the support, love, maybe it's visibility, it is going to do everything it can to protect you from it. You might feel called out here, but you might be doing some of these things. You might be self-sabotaging. undercharging. You might be downplaying your excitement about something that you really want. You might be pulling away from what you've just been asking for. Like, how many of these really sound familiar? And that's what I want us to unpack in today's episode. If you've ever wondered why your manifestations aren't sticking around, or why receiving what you want feels a bit uncomfortable, or maybe even complicated, or even guilt-inducing, you are absolutely not alone. Again, wanting isn't the issue. It's the ability to receive it and to hold it, to trust it, to let it be safe in your system. And today we are going to talk about exactly how to start doing that. So let's get into it. All right, here's where we're going to start this conversation. The gap that we just mentioned, that in-between gap. So we can visualize maybe the 20K months all day long. You can script it out in your notebook. You can see it super, super clearly in your mind. But if deep down that amount still feels really unearned or unsafe, or like it somehow threatens your identity, you'll find a way to undercut it and sell yourself short. So that might look like you discounting your offers, overgiving to compensate, pushing the payments back, or maybe even suddenly feeling like you need to fix something in your life before you're really ready for your next level. And unfortunately, most manifestation advice skips over the fact that manifestation isn't just about vision, it's about capacity. Your body knows when something feels dangerous, even if your mind wants it. So while your conscious brain is saying, yes, please send it my way, your subconscious and your nervous system might be screaming, hell no, absolutely not, because the body doesn't lie. When receiving doesn't feel safe, whether it's money, love, support, or your success, your system will do whatever it can to protect you from it. And look, like, you're not likely sitting there consciously sabotaging everything on purpose. But because some part of you learned that maybe being too visible or too lucky or too provided for or too well resourced comes with strings, maybe it attracts envy or guilt or loss of independence. Maybe it challenges your identity, especially if you've always seen yourself as the one who earns everything through hard work, or the one who never asks for help. So when you're doing all the right things, so the vision boarding and the affirmations, the goal setting, the internal work, but the goal or desire still isn't showing up, it might not be a desire issue, it might be a receivership issue. And when we keep assuming we're not ready or not aligned or not doing enough, we actually reinforce the same pattern that's blocking us. So let's then talk about why this actually happens, because most of us aren't walking around thinking, I have a problem receiving. We just feel blocked, or we feel really stuck or confused why things don't feel as good as we imagined when we finally get what we wanted. Now, like I said, it's not because you're self-sabotaging on purpose or don't want good things for yourself. It's usually because somewhere along the way, receiving got linked with danger. So let's go all the way back for a second and start with childhood imprinting, which has a lot to do with a lot of things, quite frankly. So let's think about what you were celebrated for growing up. Was it for being helpful, quiet, intelligent, the one who didn't cause a fuss? A lot of us, especially women again, were praised for being selfless, a good sharer, low maintenance, while also being encouraged to just be grateful for what we had rather than wanting more than just enough. We were taught that it was better to give than to receive, that asking for more made us selfish, that being the good girl meant saying thank you and taking what we were offered, even if it wasn't what we wanted. And that messaging doesn't just evaporate when you start doing personal development work. It lives in your nervous system. It shapes how safe you feel to be supported, provided for, and simply seen in your amazing, authentic fullness. And then there's the layer of religion or cultural upbringing. I've shared this before, but during my previous marriage, I was in an environment where wealth was almost seen as sinful. Like wanting money meant you were materialistic or greedy, and the real virtue was sacrifice, humility, going with the minimum. So even though I wanted more financial and time freedom, more beauty in the world around me, more ease, I felt guilty sometimes even just thinking about wanting more, because the deeper belief was good people don't want too much. And I know I'm not the only one who's been fed that kind of narrative, whether it came from faith, family, culture, or just the way that women are trained to be agreeable and accommodating. The result is always the same. We internalize the idea that our enoughness is directly tied to how little we need. And suddenly, anything more than survival feels optional. Or worse, it feels selfish. And this leads me to social conditioning. Even in adulthood, with all the empowerment talk that we're constantly seeing on social media, we still see it. Strong women don't need help. They don't rely on anyone. They don't expect too much. They just handle it. They get it done. And I'll be honest, I absolutely bought into that. I prided myself on being independent, on doing it all on my own. I'm still shedding parts of that. But over time, I started realizing that this badge of honor I was wearing, it was absolutely also a barrier. It stopped me from being cared for in a particular way, from receiving support, from feeling really held emotionally, financially, even spiritually. And the kicker, this resistance to receiving, it's not a personality flaw. It is literal programming. It's the result of layer upon layer of conditioning that told you needing less makes you good. Wanting more makes you superficial or over the top. Receiving too much makes you a target. My strong belief now is that wanting is natural. It's just neutral. Receiving is absolutely powerful and it's critical. And letting yourself be provided for in any kind of way doesn't mean you're weak or insufficient. It literally just makes you human. So let's zoom in on one of my favorite topics and explore the link between it and receiving. It's your self-concept. You didn't think I'd go an episode without talking about it, did you? Because our self-concept is responsible for so much. When we consider your self-concept, it's not just about the money or the love or the praise. It's about whether or not you see yourself as someone who gets to have it, who's worthy of it, who's able to have it. You can't sustainably or reliably receive more than your identity actually believes you're worthy of. And frankly, that's the real block for a lot of women that I work with. It's not that they're not doing the journaling or the vision boarding. It's that deep down, there's a part of them that's still clinging to an old identity, one that doesn't quite match the version of them that has the thing that they're trying to call in. So I'll now invite you to ask yourself, like, honestly, do I truly see myself as someone who gets to be deeply supported emotionally, financially, relationally? Do I see myself as someone who gets to be well paid, even if the work feels easy or fun for you? Do I see myself as someone who gets to be the one who receives flowers, help, opportunities, money without the guilt or without having to over-explain? Do I see myself as someone who gets to be fully nourished, like fully deeply nourished in every area of my life? Or do I see myself as the underdog, the one who always has to just make it work with less, the helper, the one that just gets by, the minimalist, the one who sacrifices or who juggles it all at all times, the giver? Now, there's nothing wrong with having once been like that version of you. She probably carried a lot, let's be honest. She probably needed to be those things at the time. But you can't keep reinforcing the old identity and expect your new desired reality to stick around. Let's call it how it is. And apologies in advance for the bluntness. So many women say they want wealth, but still cling to the version of themselves that only ever scraped by. They want nourishing relationships, but still wear the badge of I don't need anyone because it made them feel strong once. They want to be supported, but haven't yet rewritten the part of their self-concept that says support is safe. I'm the kind of woman who receives it. And this is where capacity building comes in, because it's critical to expand your self-concept to include wealth without guilt, love without over-functioning, support without debt or obligation, Now, the version of you who has what you want, she's not better than you. I really want to emphasize that. She just sees herself differently. She doesn't shrink when abundance shows up. She doesn't backpedal when love gets really real and deep. She doesn't push support away because she's afraid of being too much. She believes fully that she gets to have it. And when that belief starts to grow, even slowly, the way you relate to receiving will absolutely change entirely. Okay, let's now focus in on the 3 main areas I see women struggle with receiving the most. I put these out on my Instagram stories the other day, and it was a pretty even spread. So these are money, love, and support. So let's start with money. Common signs of resistance when it comes to money might see you undercharging, over-delivering, apologizing when someone buys, even if you're just saying it in your head, or maybe you hit a financial milestone and immediately think, all right, I better start reinvesting all of this, or I hope this doesn't dry up. What this really says is that I don't know how to feel safe having more than just enough. Or if I hold on to this, I'll be judged, or worse, I'll lose it. If any of this sounds like you, I'm going to offer you this reframe. Receiving money isn't taking from someone else. It's the energetic reflection of value, trust, and alignment. It is safe to earn well. It's safe to keep it. And it's safe to enjoy it. Oh my goodness, it is safe to enjoy money. Even saying something simple like, it feels good to receive this. I'm allowed to let it stay. It starts to train your nervous system to hold without feeling that sense of panic. This then is where self-concept and identity work is super, super important. If you've always seen yourself as the low maintenance one, maybe really just resourceful, or the one who makes do with less, receiving abundance will absolutely threaten that self-concept. It'll feel unfamiliar and your system will probably try to correct it, likely because safety has historically been tied to lack. But here's a new identity that you could try on. I'm someone who is well-resourced emotionally and financially, and I trust myself to hold it. Okay, let's look at love and friendships. Some common signs of resistance in this area might include you downplaying compliments. That's a big one. You saying, this old thing, I just got it from an op shop. When someone compliments you on an outfit, or maybe you say back to them, oh, you're just being nice. Perhaps you struggle to accept affection, praise, or even just someone wanting to do something kind for you with nothing in return. What this really says is, I've been conditioned to feel safer being neutral, not too visible, not too needy, or if I let love in, I might owe someone something back. A reframe I want to offer you here is that receiving love is not transactional. Love should not be transactional. It doesn't mean you have to give something in return when someone gives you love. A simple thank you that means so much to me is such a powerful nervous system cue that love is safe. Again, identity and self-concept work is critical if this sounds like you, because if your default identity is being the one who gives love but doesn't receive it, it's going to feel pretty uncomfortable to be on the receiving end of that, especially if you've worn your independence like a big shield. Now, let me emphasize that being supported in love does not make you weak or needy or dependent. It makes you available for really deep, nourishing connection. So try letting yourself be the loved one, the seen one, the cherished one, not in a needy way if you're worried about that, but in a fully available, open-hearted way. All right, the last one we're going to look at is receiving support. This is for my hyper-independent ladies, and don't worry, I am absolutely a recovering hyper-independent gal myself. Some common signs that you might be resistant to receiving support is that you avoid asking for help. You think it's easier if I just do it. Man, I used to think this continuously. You overfunction in friendships, relationships, or at work, even when you're exhausted. Maybe you confuse self-reliance with self-worth. What this really says is, if I need help, I've failed. I should be able to manage it all on my own. or I don't want to be a burden. This is a really, really big one that's tied to self-worth. Again, I'm going to offer you a reframe on receiving support. Support isn't a luxury. It's a requirement for sustainability. Receiving help doesn't make you less capable. Now, if this is you, you could try something small like asking a friend, would you mind checking in on me this week? Or maybe even allowing your partner to take over something and not feeling guilty about it. Identity and self-concept work, again, is just so important. And that's why I go on and on and on and on about it. For example, if your self-concept is tied to being the one who has to have it all together, being supported might feel like you're betraying that image. It literally is a threat on your identity. But what if you updated that and made your next level identity something like, I'm the kind of woman who lets life support her, and nothing about that makes me less worthy, less strong, or smart. Now, these three areas, money, love, and support, they're not separate. They're deeply interconnected. And your ability to receive in one of these areas will absolutely ripple into the others. When you increase your capacity in one area, you signal to your system, it's safe to be resourced. I don't need to overwork for it. I don't need to apologize for it. I just need to allow it in. So hopefully this is all making sense and you're seeing the gap and you're starting to notice your patterns. But what the heck do you do about it? How do you actually shift your capacity to receive? This is the part where we start turning all of this amazing insight and education and knowledge into integration. So let's start by looking at some tangible, really simple, practical things that you can start doing now that are going to be amazing mindset upgrades. Let's reframe the beliefs that have been likely undermining your ability to receive. All right, so number one, the old belief might be receiving makes me greedy or selfish. An upgraded belief could be receiving isn't taking, it's allowing. All right, number two, an old belief might be if I have more, others will have less. An upgraded belief could be there's room for everyone to thrive, including me. Number three, an old belief might be that life has to feel hard to be worth it. An upgraded belief could be ease is not indulgent, it's intelligent, especially if your nervous system is already at capacity. You can say these if they apply to you or come up with your own. Absolutely write them down, save them as your phone background if you need to. Just have them in a place where you're going to see these on repeat. This is the advice that I give with affirmations as well. You want to put them on your bathroom mirror, on the back of the toilet door, somewhere that you're actually going to see these things and reinforce that message to yourself throughout the day. Your self-concept doesn't just change with journaling about it and doing journal prompts. It changes by interacting with life differently and actually shifting the beliefs that are holding you back. I also want to touch on nervous system work because your body isn't wired for what's good, it's wired for what's familiar. If struggle, hyper-independence, or shrinking your needs have felt really safe, receiving will feel really uncomfortable. So instead of forcing yourself to go from 0 to 100, ask yourself, what's one small way I can show my body that receiving is safe today? Just do one thing. If you're serious about actually living the life that you truly desire, you need to not just consume the content, consume the podcasts, the Instagram and TikTok stuff. You need to actually apply it. And it is more than okay to start small. Micro actions, they build the muscle. They're not meant to feel huge. They're meant to rewire your baseline bit by bit. It's sustainable. It's easier to accomplish. So some other micro actions that you might want to try to include might be accepting the next compliment you get. So instead of brushing it off with oh, it was nothing, or immediately complimenting the other person back, you could try saying, thank you. I really appreciate that. Or thank you. That's so kind of you to say. I use that one quite a lot now. But then you just need to pause. Don't rush to then feel the silence after. Another micro action you could try is stating your preference about something without over explaining. So whether it's the restaurant that you want to go to, the rate you charge, or how you like your coffee even. I've heard so many women justify their coffee orders as simple as that. But I want you to practice saying it clearly without a follow-up apology, disclaimer, or justification. This teaches your system, my needs are safe to express. I don't need to earn my place through compromise or justification. All right, a final micro action suggestion that I have for you is to ask for and receive help without guilt. So this might look like choosing something small this week, such as asking your partner to cook dinner. Maybe saying yes when someone offers to carry something for you. Letting your friend pick you up instead of saying, I'm fine, I'll Uber. I know that you can carry your own thing. I know you can cook the dinner. I know you can do all of these things. But if you are struggling with receiving, it's time to challenge yourself and put yourself out of your comfort zone. So take something that I know that you can do, like the cooking dinner, and just take it as an opportunity to allow someone to do something for you. Then I want you to notice, how does your body feel? Do you tense up when you're receiving this act? Do you justify it? And most importantly, do you let yourself receive without earning it back? These are all signs telling you where the updating and the upgrading is required. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about giving yourself permission to be the version of you who already exists underneath all of the conditioning that you've had. The woman who can hold more without guilt, without apology, and without fear that it's all going to disappear. This is how receiving becomes your new normal and you sustain all that you desire and more. One undeflected compliment, one honest yes, one unapologetic preference at a time. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode is this. You are not greedy or high maintenance or delusional for wanting more. You're human, and human beings are wired to grow and expand and evolve. But receiving, that's the part most of us never got taught. Or worse, we were conditioned to avoid it. But the life you've been dreaming about, the love, the money, the opportunities, the peace, the calm, the freedom, it's not reserved for someone else. You deserve it. And receiving is a skill that you can build, a capacity you can absolutely stretch into, and I encourage you to do so. Okay, so for those who like affirmations, I've got a nice little one for you. I am safe to receive more love, more money, more support, more of what lights me up. And if you're feeling like you want some more, I have a reflection prompt for you that you can journal about if you like. All right, here's the prompt. Where do I still make it hard to be helped, loved, paid, or seen? Now, the important thing with any journal prompt is to approach yourself with curiosity, not judgment or shame. Learning and growing, it's all part of the human experience. And if today's episode brought things to the surface for you that you know that you're ready to finally shift, I've got your next steps covered. So firstly, you can check out my free private podcast episode on self-concept and embodiment. It's a deeper dive into self-concept and identity and all of that stuff that we touched on earlier. And if you're ready to start rewriting some of those old patterns and stories, like now, the Mindset Upgrade Kit will walk you through everything step by step. I have been honestly so blown away by the incredible feedback that you guys have been giving me on this kit. So please keep it coming because I love to read it. Everything, as always, is linked in the show notes below. And if this episode resonated, hit follow, leave a rating, or importantly, share it with someone who needs to hear this reminder. It is safe to receive. You're not asking for too much, I promise. You're just asking for what's already meant for you. All right, my friends, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Not So Status Quo.